My name is Lion Jennifer Marshall, and on behalf of the Minnesota Lions Eye Bank, I want to welcome you to this reception honoring our lions, lionesses, and their family members who have given the gift of sight through eye donation. It is a privilege to pay tribute to this exceptional group of people. Before we thank our Lions donors and salute two special donors, past District Governor Lion Darwin Mathwig and A.J. Salisbury, I want to pause and acknowledge another special individual whose inspiration is so interwoven with the origins of Lions Clubs International that without her, you and I would not be here today celebrating the gift of sight. And that truly extraordinary woman is Helen Keller. Now, Helen, she was born in Tuscumbia, Alabama in 1880, and she contracted a fever at 19 months of age that left her both blind and deaf. And she lived in darkness and silence until a miraculous teacher, Anne Sullivan, broke through 7-year-old Helen's isolation and taught her sign language and braille and speech. Now, Helen was truly a gift to the world, and all her life she was a tireless advocate for people with disabilities. Now, in 1925, she attended the Lions Club's International Convention and gave a short speech, and she was asking this 8-year-old organization to help the blind. So in the Lions Club's International, they were actually seeking a particular cause. They had been around for 8 years but didn't have a particular focus, and so a number of people were invited to that convention, including Helen Keller. So Helen's speech so moved the Lions that they have tirelessly worked to assist the visually impaired and to eradicate preventable blindness ever since. And I want to actually read you that special speech because some of you have heard it, some of you have not. It's always worth listening to again, and if you're not familiar with it, it's a truly beautiful speech that explains why we are here doing what we do. Dear Lions and ladies, I suppose you have heard the legend that represents opportunity as a capricious lady who knocks at every door but once, and if the door isn't opened quickly, she passes on, never to return. And that is as it should be. Lovely, desirable ladies won't wait. You have to go out and grab them. I am your opportunity. I am knocking at your door. I want to be adopted. The legend doesn't say what you are to do when several beautiful opportunities present themselves at the same time. I guess you have to choose the one you love best. I hope you will adopt me. I am the youngest here, and what I offer you is full of splendid opportunities for service. The American Foundation for the Blind is only 4 years old. It grew out of the imperative needs of the blind and was called into existence by the sightless themselves. It is national and international in scope and in importance. It represents the best and most enlightened thought on our subject that has been reached so far. Its object is to make the lives of the blind more worthwhile everywhere by increasing their economic value and giving them the joy of normal activity. Try to imagine how you would feel if you were suddenly stricken blind today. Picture yourself stumbling and groping at noonday as in the night, your work, your independence gone. In that dark world, wouldn't you be glad if a friend took you by the hand and said, "Come with me, and I will teach you how to do some of the things you used to do when you could see"? That is just the kind of friend the American Foundation is going to be to all the blind in this country if seeing people will give it the support it must have. You have heard how through a little word dropped from the fingers of another, a ray of light from another soul touched the darkness of my mind, and I found myself, found the world, found God. It is because my teacher learned about me and broke through the dark, silent imprisonment which held me that I am able to work for myself and for others. It is the caring we want more than money. The gift without the sympathy and interest of the giver is empty. If you care, if we can make the people of this great country care, the blind will indeed triumph over blindness. The opportunity I bring to you, Lions, is this: to foster and sponsor the work of the American Foundation for the Blind. Will you not help me hasten the day when there shall be no preventable blindness, no little deaf blind child untaught, no blind man or woman unaided? I appeal to you, Lions, you who have your sight, your hearing, you who are strong and brave and kind. Will you not constitute yourself Knights of the Blind in this crusade against darkness? Now, as a Lions Club member, I frequently reread Helen's speech to bring me back to my sense of purpose, renew my energy, and remind me how our work at the Minnesota Lions Eye Bank is one way we have answered Helen's challenge. And that we are able to answer that challenge thanks to eye donors and their families. Which brings me to the introduction of another remarkable individual, Lion Jody Altenhofen. Jody is our community services liaison, and as such, she is the perfect person to share with you the value of your loved one's donations. Jody?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I, too, would like to welcome you and thank you for being with us this afternoon. My job at the Eye Bank is to work with donor families after donation. I help explain the donation process and answer questions about the result of their loved ones' donations. And if I do my job well, impress upon them what an amazingly generous and valuable act eye donation is. As family members of eye donors, definitive Knights of the Blind, I hope you share in the pride of your loved one's donation and in the Eye Bank's sight-saving work. Some of you have family members who have donated for transplant. In her speech, Helen Keller mentions the goal of making the lives of the blind more worthwhile by increasing their economic value. That is exactly what corneal transplants do for recipients. The Eye Bank Association of America recently completed a cost-benefit study on corneal transplants. That study demonstrated that corneas provided for transplant by our Eye Bank alone this year will result in an estimated lifetime value of more than $94 million for cornea transplant recipients. Eye donors give recipients independence. Eye donors give recipients the ability to provide for themselves and their families. Eye donors help recipients to be contributing members of society. In her speech, Helen also mentions the goal of giving the blind the joy of normal activity. If you read the quotes on the tables, you will find corneal transplant recipients giving repeated thanks for being able to do the things that they love. On behalf of all of our cornea transplant recipients, thank you. Many of you have family members who have donated for research. In her speech, Helen asks us to hasten the day when there shall be no preventable blindness. The way to this goal is through research. Research steadily increases our ability to fight and prevent blindness. Eye tissue donated for research and education helps investigators learn more about diseases like macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, and glaucoma. It helps scientists develop new medications, surgical techniques, and equipment. It helps physicians identify sight-saving treatments and cures, and it helps surgeons practice and perfect eye surgeries. Those who donate for research help countless individuals in the future with a gift that never dies. On behalf of all scientists, physicians, surgeons, and educators, thank you very much.
introduce two special donors that we are paying tribute to. These are past District Governor Lion Darwin Maffitt and A.J. Salisbury, the son of Lion Brian Salisbury, who was the I-Bank's 2012 Betty Whalen Volunteer Award winner. These donors are being honored on the Donate Life America float at the Tournament of Roses Parade in January 2014. Their floragraphs, which is a likeness in flowers and seeds, are on display right up front. And they will be sent to Pasadena next week to be mounted on the Light of the World float that will be in the Tournament of Roses Parade. So be sure to watch. The Minnesota Lions I-Bank is proud to sponsor these two worthy individuals. So I would now like to invite Lion Nancy Mathwig to come up and share a few memories about Darwin.
First, on behalf of myself and our family, I would like to thank the Minnesota Lions I-Bank for bestowing this honor on Darwin's memory and for putting together this reception today. A few days ago, when Jennifer asked us to say a few things about Darwin, including some stories, I thought, no problem. There are lots of stories. But since that time, I've wondered what would be appropriate to include in a 5 or 10 minute speech. For many of us, the time since Darwin's death has been a learning experience on how much Darwin touched the lives of others, both in the community and worldwide. For me personally, it has been a time of awakening as to how much he meant to others in the community, both local and in Lions. To me, he was just Darwin, the man I slept next to for 37 years, the man I raised 3 kids with, the man I fought with, and believe me, our kids could share some stories about that, and the man I worked with in both business and volunteer activities. Darwin was the man who was always involved in something to make the community a better or safer place. His love of people was also just Darwin. His ease of talking with people always amazed me, even after 37 years of marriage. Who was Darwin? Darwin's service to the community of Arlington has become well known. He served in many capacities: fire department, ambulance service, Chamber of Commerce, hospital board, baseball board, city council, band boosters, church stewardship board, Lions, and many, many, many community committees. Darwin was always thinking of new ways to promote the community, whether it was a fundraiser or new ideas such as updating services within the city of Arlington. Unfortunately, as one business member told him, Darwin's ideas were many times too futuristic for our community, since it took 4 or 5 years for the idea to grow and be seen as a good thing for Arlington. In Lions and in the community of Arlington, Darwin was known for his work with youth and his belief that youth deserved a chance to prove themselves. During his years as a restaurant owner, Darwin employed many, many, many high school students, many times giving them their first opportunity to grow as a working member of the community. Once Darwin felt that the students could handle the responsibility, he would leave that student alone at the restaurant to run the place while he ran errands. He even gave our more mature students, such as our son Derek, the responsibility for an entire shift when he needed a night or a day off. He was generally on call for anything they couldn't handle, but seldom received a call. I remember one mother thanking Darwin for giving her daughter an opportunity to grow. Her daughter had a learning disability due to an accident during her early school years. Her mother truly didn't believe working in a restaurant was the right thing for her daughter to do. After a couple years working at Beanie's, and that was the nickname for the restaurant, Her daughter became one of the mature students who was left for short periods of time to run the place. Darwin was also the parent who allowed our kids to take a few risks. When our son Sean was in 6th grade, he underwent major knee surgery, and of course, as his mom and as a nurse, I didn't want him injuring himself during Boy Scout camp. One of the challenges for camp was a ropes course. I strongly objected to Sean participating in it due to his knee. Darwin was one of the chaperones on the trip and assured me that everything would be just fine. Well, needless to say, Darwin allowed Sean to complete the course. My initial response was anger, but when I saw the look of joy on Sean's face from accomplishing something he set out to accomplish, I knew his father made the right decision in allowing him to try. Darwin was also the very proud father of a sailor. Our daughter Amber enlisted in the Navy following 9/11. While I again was upset at having her go into a completely changed military world, her father encouraged her and could be heard bragging about her service to anyone who would listen. Finally, in Lions, Darwin was known for his many years of bringing youth from other countries into Minnesota and Manitoba with the Lions Youth Exchange Program. Darwin's love for the Youth Exchange Program was evident when he spent a week of vacation each year for 14 years at Camp Spicer with 20 to 30 youth from around the world. He was in contact with many of these students up until the time of his death. Finally, many of you know that Darwin definitely liked to have a good time. His enthusiasm for fun at the right time was quickly evident to the group of district governors he served with during 2009-2010. Their reputation for serenading their instructors began with past Council Chair Keith Johnson during first Vice District Governor training, continued during District Governor-elect training, and was even captured on video during the District Governor-elect training at the 2009 International Convention in Minneapolis. It's on YouTube if you ever want to see it. Even though Darwin wasn't a singer, he was always out there singing his loudest. After Darwin was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, we had many, many things to put in place. During one of our discussions, Darwin wondered if he would be able to donate his eyes to the eye bank. He knew he would not be able to donate the rest of his organs due to the cancer, but it was important for him to donate his eyes if he could. Darwin had a personal interest in corneal donation, since he was also being adamant that his mother go through with her corneal transplant, which he had postponed once he was diagnosed with his cancer. Darwin would be so proud that his eyes could be used for research, hopefully to further the knowledge and treatment for Fuchs dystrophy, a condition that affected his mother and other family members. Again, thank you for this honor, and I'm looking forward to seeing the photograph on the float in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much, Lion Nancy. That was very nice. Now I'm going to ask Marcy Salisbury to come up. Marcy is the mother of AJ Salisbury, our second honored donor. So Marcy, you want to come up?
Good afternoon. I'm up here tonight because most of you, a lot of you, have probably already heard my husband, Lion Brian, speak about corneal transplant, both in our son's donation and his transplant. So I decided I was going to give it a shot and see what I could tell you about Tony. Tony was, well, if you notice, I'm calling him Tony. He was also known as Anthony. He was also known as AJ. And it was in his later years, and as an adult, it's in college that he became AJ. So Forgive me if it's confusing to you, but I'm calling him Tony. He was always very loving and giving kid, even when he was growing up. He was also a little bit of a prankster at times. One of my favorite stories that I tell every year on a certain date is when he was about 8 years old. We lived in a home with an old-fashioned cast iron sink. We had a faucet in the middle and it had a sprayer to the side. And April Fool's Day, he took a rubber band and put it on that sprayer to make it open. So when I came home, I turned the faucet on and get sprayed right in the middle of the chest with water. Of course, after my shriek, when I turned the water off, I could hear him giggling from the other room. And to make things worse, he did it again the following year and busted me again. So he was also, there's a lot of different things about Tony. He was great on rollerblades. He was a Boy Scout. He loved water sports, fishing, boating, skiing, wakeboarding. He was also a little bit of a fish. It took a while for us to, it took him a while to get used to the water. When he was 2, he took swimming lessons with his dad and screamed through the whole thing. 6 months later, he started swimming and we could never get him out of the water. Loved water. He was a builder. Loved to build things. When he was a kid, his favorite toy was a little plastic hammer. And he'd walk around with that, saying bam, bam, hitting it on things. And would ask to pick it. He'd ask Dad, "What's that pick, Dad? Gotta pick it, Dad." He grew up to fix a lot of things. He was a builder. He helped friends build decks. He helped Brian and I build a screen porch. He was on a construction crew framing commercial buildings. At 14, he helped my father build a house from everything, from the ground up, except for roofing. He also, when he was in college, refined his building talents and hand-carved a violin. He was a musician. Acoustic guitar, bass guitar, stand-up bass, drums. He was in a jazz band, he was in a garage band, he was in a orchestra, and marching band, and a rock band. He was the younger of my 2 children growing up. He has an older sister, Angela. They had, a very typical sibling relationship, where they would argue and chat now and then. And we tried to warn Angela, Brian and I, about the fact that, one day Tony probably would be bigger than she was. And that year he helped my father build a house, he grew 5 inches. So we came home, Brian and I came home one time and they were arguing or whatever, and pretty soon Tony just sits on her. And he had enough, he sits on her, he stops, and of course he's once again giggling about the fact. Well, she was a little bit more cautious from that point on about how she got Tony's hackles up. He was a good friend. He was a great brother. He was a fiance. He was a great son. I could go on, to be perfectly honest, I could go on for a long time about Tony and about his exploits growing up. He also grew up knowing about organ and tissue donation because of Brian's experience with his corneal transplants. So when he turned 16 and, put on his driver's license right away that he was going to be an organ donor, I think there was a couple of reasons for that. Not only did he know about organ and tissue donation, but that's just the type of person Tony was. If he could help someone in some way, he was going to do it. And again, because of cancer, he couldn't donate anything any more than his eyes. One of his eyes was donated, the cornea was transplanted, the other was used for research. So I know that that Tony would have felt that deep in his heart, that that was a good thing. Brian and I, and our daughter Angela, and our son-in-law Dan, want to thank you. Thank you to the Minnesota Lions I-Bank for sponsoring it, for giving us the opportunity to promote eye and tissue donation. Thank you for coming. This has been a wonderful afternoon, and we look forward to going to Pasadena and seeing fluorographs actually on the float, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Marcy. So both Nancy and Marcy, I want to thank you because you two in your stories and your reminiscences are representing all of the Lions that we are, and Lions family members that we are honoring today. And so your very precious stories help us remember how many other stories there are out there for every single one of our donors and how special they are. And so we thank you. So Jody, can you come up once more? We would like to present our two families with some gifts. And Jody, can you explain a little bit more about it?
I don't want to give away the surprise, but what we have for a gift for each of these families is something made by a cornea recipient that we have the pleasure of working with at Minnesota Lions Eye Bank. His name is David Dunn. He is a wood turner, and maybe that's a familiar term to most everyone in the room. It wasn't to me, but he's a wood artist. And when he received a cornea transplant, he has Fuchs dystrophy, he was able to continue with his craft. A lot of his work is on display at a gallery in Rochester. Is it Semba? Something like Semba Gallery. Anyway, a wonderful gentleman, beautiful work, and so we'd like to offer these gifts to you from Mr. David Dunn.
So I'll let our photographer Michael get a good photo. That concludes the formal program that we have prepared for you. A couple last-minute thank yous. Many people on the I-Bank staff helped make this event a success, and I'd like to thank them for that. I'd like to thank you all for coming, because this event is all about you, and to thank you for the gift that your loved ones gave, which was just a tremendous gift, and I can never impress upon you enough about that. I'd like to remind you that we have our wall over here honoring the donors that chose to participate, the families that chose to participate in this event, so please make sure you read those if you can. We also have scrolling not only some donor photos on the screen, but also a few recipients as well that have Lions connections. So all of the honors, the donors being honored today do have a Lions connection. If they're not a Lions themselves, then they are the son, the father, the aunt, uncle, some relation to a Lion. And so know, of course, the importance of the work of the Lions. I welcome you to continue to mingle and have a good time, and I think, do we still have food? Good. So have more food. I'm sorry that the cider is gone. We drank all the cider in Minneapolis. They have no more. But they did. They put out more and more, and so we have no more. They did, I will even put out hot chocolate as a substitute. So if you're not a coffee drinker, there is hot chocolate for you. And then just stay as long as you would like. And I look forward to mingling with you as you enjoy the rest of the